So, welcome and thank you very much for accepting my interview request here in Groningen. And thank you for a beautiful concert performance. We have Gerry Hemingway here on the right. We have Noah Punkt here in the middle. And we have Michael Jaeger here on the left. Thank you very much. I will start with Gerry Hemingway. You're from the United States and you live at the moment in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. You're a drummer, percussionist. You work with samples, electronics, the voice. You do songwriting. You're a composer, arranger, and educator.
True.
And since 2009, you teach at the Hochschule für Musik in Luzern in Switzerland. You played with many people like Anthony Braxton, Cecil Taylor, Michael Moore, Ernst Reisiger, Evan Parker, George Lewis, Derek Bailey, Leo Smith, and so on. And you also played with Noah Punkt and Michael Jaeger.
Why not?
I read on your website you are a Guggenheim Fellow.
That's true.
What does it mean?
The Guggenheim is a rather prestigious organization that awards scientists and artists a grant, a kind of, it's a grant, we call it a grant, for an acknowledgement of their work. Often it's related to a specific project they propose. In my case, I proposed an orchestral work for 3 improvisers in orchestra, which I did. And but the main point of it is that it acknowledges the work of the life work of an artist. Usually you only receive 1 in your life. Very few people have received 2. So it's quite an honor to get the reward. It's one of the very few larger acknowledgments of my work that I've received during my career. And there were other grants and foundations that supported my work, but this was it's quite an important one. And when you receive a grant, you become a Guggenheim Fellow, which is also a big deal. And it's like it's sort of like the Pulitzer thing as well. So you become part of a large group of people, and you get into a book, and you're acknowledged as an artist. It's a significant acknowledgement. I applied for I think 7 or 8 years before I was successful in receiving it. Many of my friends have applied for as many as 20 years and still haven't gotten one. It's very difficult to get, and I was fortunate. Yeah.
Okay. And did you ever had a mentor who was that important for you that you learned something very special but you still use today?
Absolutely. I've had several.
Who was that and what did he tell you?
It could be a she as well, so right away. In my case, when I was a teenager, I had I would say in English we would call it the serendipity, which means the fortunate, lucky occasion of being able to be in the right place at the right time. I'm from Connecticut, the state that I was born in, and at the time when I was a teenager, 17 years old, I fell into a group of very, very interesting musicians who I was fortunate to meet and work with, and that included Anthony Davis, George Lewis, some of the people you mentioned. But maybe the most significant person in the very earliest part of this equation was Leo Smith, or now known as Wadada Leo Smith. And he moved to New Haven. He was first of all from the Delta, then he moved to Chicago. He became part of the Association for the Advancement of Creative Musicians. He moved then eventually from Chicago to Paris, along with many other AACM members, the Art Ensemble of Chicago, all these great musicians. He lived in Paris for about 2 or 3 years, and then he came back to the States, and so did Anthony Braxton. Anthony Braxton and he were very close at that time. And Anthony moved to Woodstock, New York, and Leo chose to move close to a town, a rather obscure town, rather close to New Haven, Connecticut. I met him when I was 17 years old. I had hair down to here. I was a hippie. I was really interested in this music. I had discovered everything about the AACM and experimental music and improvisation all through recordings. I only knew it through the records that I had bought. And I had Leo's very first solo LP. And when I met him, I could tell him, hey, I've got your LP and I know your music, you know, and I was so excited to meet him. He kind of, I mean, not in any real formal kind of way, he sort of took me under his wing. I basically spent a great deal of time with him in these early years. I was doing many things, but I was at his house many times a week. We would practice music together and work on that. At that time, he was working on what was called acreinvention, which is a form of notation and very specialized form of notation that he was developing at the time. And we practiced these things together, as well as he exposed me. He was the person who probably got me into world music more than anybody else, and just history in general. When I met these musicians in New Haven, I had a certain, my entry point was the current music of that time. And again, the AACM were very important. They were all Roscoe Mitchell, the Art Ensemble, Leo, Anthony Braxton. All these guys were like super important to me, even though I only discovered them through recordings, as well as Lake Coltrane, Dolphy, all the other stuff too. But those AACM guys really got me. And so, but thanks to Leo, I kind of expanded very quickly. I was listening to King Oliver. I was listening to Harry Partch. I was listening to the Peking Opera. I was listening to the music of Burundi. I was listening to everything with him, and we were like really studying stuff together. And his knowledge and his understanding of things and just his openness and interest in all those things opened many doors for me as a person, as a human being, and as a musician. And he introduced me particularly to the idea of space, the idea of using silence, the idea of using as an expressive tool. And he had his own way of organizing that through notation, through improvisation and other means. But I adopted it in my own way and took it in. So I consider him to be an important mentor, among others. Braxton was, of course, a mentor as well. I spent so many years with him later in life. And I worked with him for 11 years, and so he also could be considered to be a mentor as well. Yeah. But Leo was really important in an early stage.
Yeah. Well, I wrote in an other interview that you function in a way when you improvise. You relate most quickly to harmonic, melodic, and sonic elements, and the frequencies of others, and your own instrument while you play. Can you explain this a little bit?
It's great that you pay attention to these interviews. I appreciate that, actually. Yes, it's true. I noticed, even not so long ago, that my ear is oriented towards frequency more than anything else. What this means is that in the environment of interchange and improvisation, it's quite common that there are certain pathways where our sensitivity is very strong, and or our ability to communicate on other kinds of wavelengths is quite developed. So I would say for me that the one that I noticed that is that offers a lot of information to me is frequency or pitch. And somehow even though my instrument is not so well constructed for pitch control, or it doesn't have that much to offer as well as pitch, it does have many, many frequencies. It's an orchestral instrument, so it has very low to very high, and lots of things in between, lots of notes missing, of course, but that doesn't matter. I have a lot of frequencies to work with inside of my instrument. And so in this respect, I'm able to interchange and interweave and interact with a tremendous amount of information that is, by my ear, is triggered by what I hear in frequency. So it's a channel, if you will, of communication that I respond vibrantly to. It's not the only thing I respond to, of course. There's much more than, it's complicated to talk about improvisation in any simplified way. it's a very elaborate thing that goes on when people improvise together. So, but it is an interesting area, at least from a drummer's perspective. Most drummers are probably a bit more oriented towards other things than frequency, but that seems to be the thing that I respond quite strongly to, if that helps you understand how I do that. Yeah.
Well, Noah, you were born in Güstrow, you are raised in Stralsund, and you live in Leipzig and Zürich. And you are a musician, an artist, video and lifestyle I could see on your Instagram. So you are a human professional and an educator. Since 2012 you play bass, the bass, electric bass and the double bass. You studied bass at the Liszt School of Music. I think it's in Weimar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's right.
And you are very active in the jazz and improvisation scene in Leipzig and Zürich, and of course now in Groningen. And you like cooking.
I really do like cooking. I'm in the search for the perfect omelette. Since I watched
come to my house.
You have the perfect omelette at your house?
I think I have sorted it out. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll have to have a discussion about it.
Okay. Let's meet next week. I'm in Zurich.
There you
Come
go.
over.
Come on down.
Yeah. Actually, I like cooking. But I also like to have some nice fries.
Yeah.
Which I don't cook, which professionals cook for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like slight correction, I play bass since 2000, but on, let's say, kind of a professional level since 2012.
Yeah.
This is the time
And
where I started earning my money with music. Yeah.
And you're also the driver of this band.
Yeah, I'm driving the Bluesmobile.
Okay.
Bluesmobile.
Yeah.
The Bluesmobile.
The Bluesmobile.
Dude.
The high-powered.
Can you tell me what is the magic for you to play electric bass and double bass?
Difficult question, because I kind of lost the magic of the electric bass and went more into the acoustic bass, where just like the difference lies, because the electric bass is kind of an easy instrument. You just like, you pull down the string, you plug it, the sound is there. It's not an effort. You can just like do it very easily, and it's very easy to get to a virtuosic level. You can just like play very fast very soon. And I kind of lost the connection to it. I just like wanted to work a bit more for the sound, and there comes like the double bass. It's kind of a tough instrument. You have to pull the string a bit harder, you have to plug a bit harder, you have to bow very concentrated, and you have to work for the tone. And I just wanted to have a physical connection to the instrument. I kind of missed it all the time with the electric bass. It was cool playing electric bass, playing in rock bands, playing pop bands, all this stuff. But when it came to jazz, I was missing something. Just a physical connection to the instrument. And so that's also kind of the magic, because I would define myself as a physical person. Just like movement and connection with the body to things is very important to me.
Okay. And who was your mentor, and what did you learn from this mentor especially, what you still use today?
Yeah. Actually, I'm a mentor at a mentoring program. And I kind of missed this mentor figure in my life. I kind of was always looking for it, but I had to make my way kind of on my own, because I didn't went to a conservatory that long. I broke up after 1 year of studying jazz. I made my bachelor in musicology and composition before, but besides this, I didn't do the jazz program in full length. But I would say that my former good friend Vashi, he had his Washburn guitar, and so we just like put it into German and called him Vashi. And we were hanging out a lot when I was 17, 18, so kind of the same age. Jerry had this impact. and we were just trying to figure out what is music, what is jazz, what we want, and it was a lot of talks, and it had a big impact on me, and I was kind of trying to find a way what I do with my life, and we just hanging out with this guy and relaxing and playing music was kind of leading the path. So I would say he isn't a mentor, but he just like laid on something.
Yeah. Can you tell me how do you function as an improviser?
Whew. Also difficult question. I kind of have two sides. A very intuitive side, where I just like let the music and the other musicians lead the way and I flow with them. And I kind of just like go with it. Let go with it, and it works. Just like my fingers work, my ideas work, my brain is like shut down I don't know how to express it in English, but it's kind of it's working alongside with the flow of the others, and decisions are made very intuitively. But on the other hand, I'm a very brainy guy. It's like thinking a lot. What could I do? What are the options? I just like laying it down in my mind. Option A, option B, option C, and so on. And it's like, what could work? How do I want to what role do I want to have in the ensemble? Do I want to play with the guys, against the guys? Do I just like shut up, and just like take a listen? It's also floating between those two poles, I would say. Yeah, that sums it up a bit.
Okay, you are also an educator. I want to know from you, what do you teach?
Actually, at the moment, I teach nothing.
That's a very good topic.
That's a very good topic. Yeah.
Tough one.
All and nothing.
Exactly.
And nothing in
at all.
between. Yeah. It was an inspiring moment. Yeah, I taught electric bass to kids, adults. Yeah, playing the bass. Playing some nice rock riffs, playing some nice James Jamerson lines.
There you go, James Jamerson. We're talking
James
about him.
Jamerson. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Hanging out with young people.
Okay, great job.
Yeah.
Well, Michael Jaeger, you're from Switzerland, and at the moment you live in Leipzig. You told me you play the saxophone and the clarinet. You're born in Zürich. You play the tenor saxophone, the clarinet, you compose, you improvise, and you're also an educator. You studied music and teaching together with Kurt Rosenwinkel, or at least they were your teachers, Mark Turner and Lauren Newton, the singer. Who was your mentor, and what did you learn from this person the most, what you still need and use today?
You mentioned Kurt and Lauren. These certainly were two personalities that in the end of my studies, in the end of my high school Hochschuljahre, were very important. In the last year, let's say in the performance year, because they are so experienced. Then you get really this feeling of experience, and you have the chance to feel that flow of making music a whole life. But if you ask me about the mentor, I definitely have to name Nat Su. He's an alt saxophone player, which is not internationally as known as he could be, he should be. He's a musician. He's in Switzerland the cat on the saxophone, beside others, but let's say for Zurich he's the man. And I was his student long before the time in Luzern when I studied. I had the chance by the drum teacher of my brother to go to NET as a teenager, and that was really the moment when I got in contact to a music personality, and he really pushed me forward.
Okay.
Mm.
What does interest you to play the clarinet?
The clarinet was my starting point. Saxophone was my dream, my wish, and at these times you had to start with the clarinet. So I did, and I was lucky because my first clarinet teacher was a very humorous and very rich spirit. He was a classical musician, playing also classical music, playing also improvising also, but actually he was coming more from the classical and folk music. But he let me improvise. He realized I'm not the guy that plays a classical etude, and so he was really open-minded. We made a band when I was 10 years old, and on the drums was my brother, and I could name him the second mentor, if you like, because with him I improvised from being born. We improvised by playing, we improvised on instruments. I learned the clarinet, the flute first, he the drums, percussion, and probably this was the key of coming into the improvisation through playing as a kid plays.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you explain me the breath of a musician?
The what?
The breath.
The breath?
The breathing, the breath of a musician.
Yeah, the breathing thing was something that interested me very much, also, let's say, philosophically and not only technically during my studies. And I wrote about this my thesis. For me it was a possibility, or it is a possibility to connect physical things with spiritual things, because breathing is something we always do, and I always do. I needed to play my instrument, but it gives you also the possibility to focus to switch your consciousness, your perception of things by concentrating on the breathing. And breathing is life, yeah. As simple it sounds, and breathing is movement. If you got the breathing in the movement, you are very close to yourself and to the music. Let's say it like this.
Yeah. How do you teach improvisation?
Oh, I don't teach.
You don't teach?
We just do it.
Okay.
We just play.
Okay. But what you also do is you work as a farmer.
As a farmer?
Or at least you help a farmer sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you were really good in your research. Yeah. Yeah, I had the chance in Switzerland. Switzerland is very conservative, but it's also open-minded. Both. A lot of contrasts. And in Switzerland it was possible to not go to the military, which I was not able to do. So I had the chance to work 12 months. You have to think about it. It's a year, full time, in a other
social service.
Social service. Yeah. That means I worked really a lot with kids in a orphanage, and I worked on a as a farmer. Yeah, let's say. push the shit away. Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's the good experience. Yeah.
Everybody should do it.
Everyone should do it instead of shooting.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So now I have questions for all of you.
Okay.
My first one is, what qualities do you like at each other's?
Oh, now it gets to the nitty gritty.
Well, I think that one of the things that makes a chemistry work in a group dynamic is the very difficult to define, and somehow very liquid definition of the mixture of the ability to listen and respond to what it is that is in the environment at the time, in the moment, at the same time to go to the other extreme and to ignore it, to be clear about your own initiative in the moment. So there's a healthy balance, a very, very fluid balance of that which is about initiative and response, which is a classical definition of the improvised environment. But the improvised environment is a complex environment that also involves the ability for the artists at the time of the making of the music to be in the present time. And in that present moment, then it's difficult to distinguish precisely, unless you had an ability to go back and look at it, as to what you're doing, as Noah pointed out earlier, is from the brain or from the intellect, and what it is that's coming from the impulse, from the gut. And all of these things seem very, so what makes a group happen, and your question, in my opinion, in my experience, is the sense that the knowingness of how it goes together and the unexplainable reason why it works. It's hard for me to explain why the three of us are successful at making music, because we are different from each other, and we have different experiences and we bring to the table different things musically and experientially. But somehow I feel that the sensibility of the whole has a natural quality to it that both flows in a nice way, it flows in a natural way, and at the same time, what I enjoy about working with these guys is the unexpected, the left turns, the very quick ways in which the music can take a different place, or move to a different atmosphere, or move to a different. And I also just on one other simple point is that I think that we integrate interesting things that I guess that we all individually admire. One of the more obvious ingredients in what we do is we swing, we play time, we play things that groove, and that doesn't always happen in improvised music. Sometimes improvised music is a bit scared of that topic. So I'm glad these guys are comfortable to find places that have rhythmical connection and groove in interesting ways, and so there's a little bit of jazzistic kind of thinking, or if you wish, if you could call it that, or you could call it any kind of way in which rhythm is itself becomes the underlying element that's connecting all the points together for a period of time. And sometimes that's pretty well hidden inside of the texture of the group dynamic. It's there, but it's operating behind the scenes, but it's not in the foreground. And then sometimes it's actually very direct and very straightforward and quite simple. It's basically like we just playing the blues. So.
Here we are.
You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes it's a hidden.
Sometimes it's really hidden. Really hidden. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would totally agree on it, and this would like to add the sense of humor in those both guys, which is sometimes not so hidden, which I totally appreciate. And it's kind of when it comes to jazz history and improvised history, we know there are some cliches. and we are also not afraid of using it, just like playing the blues, which is kind of a cliche, but it's also just nice, and we kind of embrace it, and we take the shot when it's happening, and we play it, we feel it, and it's great, and I love this very much, and also just like making kind of a humorous statement while playing, and not being afraid of this humor, because improvised music is sometimes also very, very serious. And it's like
and it can be both at the same time.
Totally
They can
agree.
coexist.
Yeah. And it's for me, I feel like we are in, on a playground. We are kids on a playground, and we just like grab everything and just like try it, and try to work with it, try to play with it, not work, play. And yeah, if we just like lose the interest in it, we proceed to the next one, and we kind of just like flow around each other, and we got the sense for it, and this is what I totally like. And also just like going towards the other, and just like looking what does he got, what can I add to it, what can I do, what is my voice, and I can feel that everybody's interested in what the other is playing, and is listening, and then making decisions or going with the flow or whatever. And this sense of awareness, I just appreciate it very much with these guys.
What else to add? I just pick up your blue thing, and to add one little tiny thing on the nice things you both said, the thing about not judging, not thinking hierarchically. Hierarchically, yeah.
That's a difficult word.
Ooh. Hierarchically. Not thinking like this, improvised music is this and that, and this groove does not go, blues does not go. We have to be modernistic, what else? Being open, whatever is on the table, and having respect for the beauty of things, and being on the same time sure about beauty, having a sense for beauty and for style. That means not being kitsch, not being kitschy at the same time. It's the just I wanted to add, yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell me, do you rehearse as an improvisation group? And if you do so, is rehearsing important?
I think rehearsing is important.
Yeah.
It would be nice to rehearse. We haven't the luxury to do so at the moment. But we have played concerts together and sort of found our way by way of the environment of the concert. And trusted that there was enough in those experiences that we felt we should go on and do more. So we didn't. I am in other groups where that do improvised music, that do rehearse and do actually, but it's a little bit logistical in terms of where these guys live. They at the moment are both in the north of Germany, and I'm in the middle of Switzerland, so it's not so easy to find points of being able to rehearse. But on the other side, we have managed to. One of the great things about performing is certainly the environment where it's. You have to deal, so you find your way, and it's pushed us. I think this tour in particular is 4 concerts in a row, and we've had a chance to really move forward.
Okay. Well, is improvisation always successful? Or is it sometimes just good enough for the trash? Who decides the quality, and what is a quality of improvisation?
I would say improvisation is not always successful. Just like the aim of improvisation is kind of the improvisation itself. that's the goal. You improvised, so maybe it's at least if you improvise, then it's successful. But I think what you ask for is kind of a quality. Kind of a quality for me as a listener, because when I played it, it's over, it's done, it's vanished into the ether. But if you just like record it and you come back and listen to it, then you are just like percepting it as a listener, as a consumer. And then I have different kind of standards approaching it. It has to be kind of gripping. I have to have joy listening to it. So that when I'm improvising, kind of just like what makes me feel comfortable is like there's a flow with the other improvisers. There's something interesting going on. That what makes it, I wouldn't say successful, but joyful and yeah, it's giving me something also when improvising. Just like sometimes it's not happening, there's no magic in the air, then okay.
Let's wait.
No, let's wait, just like get a beer and go home and just like try next time, which is okay. But the chance of that it's not working is totally there. And it's okay if it's not working. We're all human beings, we are not improvising machines. But that also wouldn't work because it's kind of the interaction.
But on the other hand, I feel with Gerry, improvising, the difference, the benefit of experience, of a lifetime experience in improvising. I feel that as attitude toward the momentum. Even it's not burning, even it's shitty, even it's not this magic. You don't, or as I feel it improvising with you. You don't change your attitude. It's the same as I talked earlier about this openness. It's the same openness against this in this moment. So you have the nice chance that the transformation returns, and it transformation comes back. You cannot force it, but you can be open for it, and that's the like, yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, right.
I have a little bit of a different point of view about this. I think that the environment of improvisation is a collective environment. And what I mean by that is that the musicians are the major part of the equation, but the listener, or sometimes I refer to the listener as the witness, of this act of real-time invention, is also participating in the calculation of what it is, whether it's happening, so
Absolutely,
to speak,
yeah.
or not. Their ability to concentrate and to be present at the same time that as the musicians were present and generating, that equation is a very interesting dynamic inside of the room. So the success is actually not the right word. It doesn't have anything to do with what happens. It has to do with the fact that we all have the privilege of being in the same space for 1 hour together. We all can shut off the world temporarily and actually have this experience together. And that's all that really matters. It's not really actually about success, failure, this, that, or the other thing. It's about this experience that we share together. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a request. Would you please hum for me something, like in an improvisation? Just a short moment. Be aware of the neighbors and the microphone, but just
Okay.
do something with your voice.
With the voice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Well, what I noticed, there were harmonies inside.
Mhm.
Can you tell me what is harmony? And are there also disturbing elements in harmonies?
Harmony
Okay.
are
Harmonies.
actually coming from the overtones, if we take it simple. And yeah, everything comes from these overtones, and so the overtones are in the voice, and we just decide whether to overlap overtones or not overlap them, to keep it simple. Because my English is also simple, so and yeah, I think from there everything evolved from this phenomenon of the overtone structure, which is still interesting as a phenomenon even now.
Mm.
It will always be.
And it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's
It's in the rain.
it's nature.
It's nature. Yeah.
It's nature. And
It's a piece of nature.
So I think what Michael is speaking about as well is a point of relation that is accessible to us with our experience and background and training and interests and things that we absorb and things that we're aware of, so that when we begin to sing or hum anything, there's a sense of it's also it comes sometimes in the way that we speak and hang out together and kind of amusing way of talking with each other. We're in the free, we call it free association. We're associating very, very quickly and very easily and very much in a flow without much thinking. And the experience of music guides these moments, and particularly when musical tonalities or tones or sounds or anything are put together. There's already a sense, almost in the immediate sense, how these things go together. Dissonance and consonance, that's another topic. They're just tools. They're just part of harmony.
Okay.
They're just part of they're part of the nature of things and the way things work together. They're both valid.
Yeah. Can you tell me how your job to improvise in music regular, because you improvise a lot, affects you and your life as a human? Are you more playful, maybe? So, how does it reflect on your life?
I think it works both ways, and I think improvising starts earlier than the musical career, I would say. It's kind of approaching your everyday life. If there's a problem, you want to solve it. You want to just like find a solution, and therefore you have to improvise. You have to look, what are the options? What can I do to solve the problem? And that's basically, it's improvisation. There's no cheese there for the pasta. What do I do? You improvise. You just like look for options to go. And I think it is interacting. It's just when you choose to improvise in music, you are also just keeping this improvisation in your everyday life, and it interacts, and I think it just like strengthens each other, for me, I would say.
I would say, in general, in a very simple way, learning how to listen. I mean, learning how to listen to everything, and also to another human being. Interaction is very often, I notice people struggle to really understand each other because they don't actually hear what the other person is trying to express. So improvisation, if it's given me any gift, it's slowly over time I've learned how to listen in a very deep way to what people say. And I can do it in a very quick way, but I can also do it in a very quiet and thoughtful and caring way. So I would say that it improved my ability to communicate.
For me, the music could also be like a
Listen. Listen.
I'm not listening at all. I'm not listening.
You're talking about listening.
Damn. Okay.
I take it quick because we are very hungry.
Very hungry. We
So
worked hard.
I make it very quick to finish. Yeah, it's music in general, not only improvisation. For me, it's like a own force. Like you said, it makes us listen, and it also it keeps me curious about things and about knowing how things work out, and so it make me also. You know what I mean?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I could say one other thing that's kind of interesting. I also learned something else from improvisation, which is that I don't have the answer. It took me a long time to get that. That was a slow process for me, because I felt like I needed to know. But when you really embrace the ability of what improvisation can give you as a gift, is the ability to recognize that you don't know, and love that, and be okay with that, and be comfortable with that, you know, and that's huge, actually. So I would say that.
Yeah. Can you tell me very short what is the essence, the magic of your collaboration, the Hemingway, Noah, and Jaeger collaboration? What makes it so special, and what is this?
I would say it's the magic. It's
I
the
don't know.
hunger.
I mean, it's you know, some things aren't so easy to explain. I mean, why a chemistry works or doesn't. I mean, I think we're a little bit at the beginning of this. We're not so far down the road in understanding what we can do and what we understand, but there seems plenty to look at. So if you have enough things to do and you sense that there's more to talk about and more to look through, more to process together, then we will see. But I think that in many respects we're really, honestly, only really at the very beginning. I have worked with musicians, many musicians, for quite a long time. I'm known for that. Bass trombone is 42 years old, so it's like, I mean, that's old. We spent a lot of time together, and I mean, it's so things can change, and some things won't last, some things won't go on, and it has their time, and that's it, and that's true, and that might be with us, but I'm looking forward to more options, see what else happens. I'm playing the blues.
Okay.
Fine.
Cool.
What is the most beautiful sound you ever experienced?
Jesus.
It can be anything. Maybe
Most
a
beautiful sound.
landscape or the kitchen here or.
Actually, I had a very nice moment. I was on tour with a trio of mine, and we were in Metz, and it was snowing, and it was deep in the night, and the lights were beautiful. It kind of affects also the experience, but you could really hear slowly the snow falling to the ground, so softly and tenderly. It was like I totally embraced the moment. It was one of the most beautiful experiences this year, which is like totally comes to my mind now, super fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was deeply happy to have this moment. It was huge for me. I enjoyed it very much.
I don't know where to start with that. I have so many of them.
Yeah. What can you give as an advice for improvisers, for young improvisers who want to reach more, go further? What do you teach? What do you give? What do you share?
Be a friend of the judge. The judge is the person within us who says, "Oh, that wasn't good. No, that was okay. Nah, I'm not so sure about that. Oh, this." Anyways, that judge is in all of us. So be a friend. Tell the judge when it's their time to be judging and helpful, and when it's not their time to get them out the room so that you can get on with the business of being creative. That's one piece of advice for you.
Or like Wayne Shorter said it, don't judge the process.
Right.
This is really a nice thing.
That's true.
That is saying a lot of things at the same time.
I would say take your time in all the aspects it can mean. To add to what they both said.
Okay. And what is the most beautiful for you to be a musician?
What is the most beautiful what? The most beautiful thing about being a musician? I know it's a privilege.
Totally.
I respect it, and I don't take it for granted. It's a gift. So.
For me, it's the privilege of that I can take my time. I can be in a very long-term process, which is kind of my life, and I have the privilege to take this time and not to work at the counter or just like do something else for anybody else. I can take my time for me, for kind of my creative process, my living process, my inner voice, the inner judge. I can completely concentrate on this, and this is such a privilege.
Actually, it's a thing that every human being knows. We develop, we keep the same in the center, but we develop till we die, and this transformation is in music. Music helps to do this transformation, and it's really, as you said, a big privilege to do it through music. Other people do it through religion or through poetry or whatever. But we are. Music helps us, and we are helping music to change, to move along.
Sing a song.
Yeah. Well, in 1976, Stevie Wonder published a beautiful record, Songs in the Key of Life, and the first song of this double LP is called Love's in Need of Love Today. What do you think about that?
Good philosophies, positive philosophies are important. Musicians have particularly the ones who have the ability to reach many through popular culture, as sometimes a bit of a responsibility I do feel to help us as a human condition to try to do the right thing and try to do good things and try to respond to positive things. And Stevie Wonder is a great example of an extremely positive human being, and he's helped me, and I'm sure he's helped many others. We listened to him today in the car, as a matter of fact, as it so happens. Yeah, so there you go. He was in the house temporarily.
Still is. Yeah, we are always in the need of love, but also love isn't in the need of love. There's so much love around. Just be aware of it. Embrace it, take it, accept it, give it back, I would say.
If you don't love to make the music, forget it. So it's kind of easy. Search. Go to the point where you feel comfortable in this situation. Then love can happen, or resonance can happen. Love is the key.
Love is
As
in the air.
Shakespeare said it.
Yeah.
If music be the food of love, play on all night.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
I hope
Thank
you
you.
have a
Thank you.
beautiful meal and a good
you.
trip back to Leipzig tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Yeah.
Ihno. go to the toilet.
I think so.
That was emergency.
Yeah.
Amen.
Hey.
Thank you.